You want one, señorita? Said Andres' father from behind the big freezer that displayed the ice creams. Isadora emerged from her reverie.
Si, but I have no money, señor.
Then go away, he shouted at her. You are putting other customers off. Isadora shrugged at him and decided she would not be inviting him to any fiestas. Andres was not at the cafe yet, but it was still early in the morning. She's not putting me off, said a deep voice from behind her. I would like 2 of those. The man pointed to the green ice cream. Si, señor. Isadora turned and saw crowds flooding out of the cathedral. Early morning mass must have just finished. She saw Enrico, Andres' father, change his expression and become all smiles for the payo. While the 2 cornets were filled, Isadora looked up at the man, who was very tall and sunburnt with a pair of deep brown eyes. He looked kind, she thought, and a bit sad. Here, señorita, he said as he handed one of the cornets to her. She looked up at him in surprise.
For me?
She asked. Si, he nodded.
Gracias a Dios,
she said as she took a lick of the ice cream that was already melting in the sun and dribbling down the cornet. And having identified a potential customer, she smiled up sweetly at him.
Would you like your fortune told?
She asked him in Spanish. No comprendo. Hablo inglés, he said.
You like fortune tell?
The words had been taught to her parrot fashion by Annalena, just in case she got talking to an English-speaking tourist in the plaza. You can tell my fortune? The man looked down at her. It was Isadora's turn to say she didn't understand.
Mi prima, Annalena.
Isadora pointed to the plaza.
She very good,
she said as she stretched out her palm and mimed the reading of it. Why not? The man shrugged as he licked his ice cream and indicated that Isadora should lead the way. Annalena was just finishing with another client, and Isadora held back whilst the money was exchanged.
Here,
she said when the woman had walked away.
I have a man for you. His Spanish isn't good, she whispered quickly.
Hola, señor. Annalena smiled her brightest smile.
I see hand, she asked in English. Then I tell you about your daughter.
My daughter? Seeing the man's shocked face, like all Annalena's clients had when she told them a secret she somehow knew, Isadora walked away and went to finish her ice cream in the shade of an awning across the plaza. She hoped that she would receive a few centimos in commission from Annalena for bringing the man to her. Perhaps she would buy a present for her grandmother with it. Just as she was thinking this, and also feeling sad that Andres had not yet appeared at the cafe, a black and white kitten appeared from the alleyway next to her and began to weave its skinny body around her legs.
Oh, you're so sweet,
Isadora said as she picked the kitten up in her arms and it began to purr.
Maybe I could take you home as a present for Abuela, she said as she kissed its head.
Looking across the plaza, she saw that the man she had taken to Annalena was walking away. She crossed towards her cousin, still holding the kitten.
Look what I found.
Isadora looked up hopefully, but Annalena's eyes were still following her customer.
Look,
she demanded.
Can we take him home, Annalena, please? She begged.
No, you know we cannot. We can hardly feed our own mouths, let alone animals. Now, I am too tired and hot for more clients, and we must go home.
What about my ice cream?
You already had one, didn't you naughty girl? That man bought one for you. There is so much sadness in the world.
Ay.
Annalena brushed her hand across her eyes. Now put that kitten back where you found him and we will go. Isadora did so, sulking because it was a long, hot walk home. She hadn't seen Andres, and no matter how hard she begged, she was not allowed to have a pet of her own. Did you make good money this morning? She asked Annalena. She was used to her cousin's silences when they returned from her seeing. Abuela said it drained her energy, so she would always try to cheer her up on the walk home. Yes, that man gave me 10 pesetas.
10 pesetas!
Isadora clapped her hands.
Why aren't you happy?
Because even if they are payos, I wish I didn't have to take their money, that I could see for them for free.
You don't take money from the gitanos who come to see you, do you?
No, but that is because they have none. Annalena smiled down at her weakly, then ruffled her head. You are a good girl, Isadora, and I am sorry if I am cross sometimes. I understand. Isadora patted her hand. It is a big burden you carry, she said solemnly, repeating the words she had heard Maria use 3 nights ago when one of her neighbours had come to their cave begging for a potion to save her 70-year-old mother. Annalena had given it, but when the woman had gone, she had shaken her head. She will be dead by morning, and there is nothing I can do. Well, that is kind of you to say, but my gift is also a great privilege, and I should not complain. She stopped suddenly and hugged Isadora to her. I love you, querida, and we must spend the time we have been granted together happily. A month later, as the heat of June melted into an even hotter July, Isadora came home to find a stranger sitting in her grandmother's kitchen. She looked up at Maria, who was sitting in her wooden rocking chair, her eyes red raw from crying. "What is it? What has happened, Abuela?" she said, ignoring the man and walking across the kitchen to clamber into Maria's lap. Isadora, Maria did her best to compose herself as she put her arms around her granddaughter. "I am so sorry, querida, so sorry. What is it? What has happened? You all look so sad." Isadora stared at the man sitting at the table nursing a glass of Ramon's special brandy. "Who is he?" "Well, that is the happy news." Maria managed a weak smile. "This is Pepe, your uncle." "Pepe? You mean your son who lives in America?" Isadora's expressive eyes turned back to Maria. "My uncle?" "I do, yes." "And he has come here?" "He has, yes." Maria smiled and indicated Pepe. "But—" Isadora put her finger to her mouth, as she did when she was thinking. "Why are you not happy, Abuela? You said so often that you miss him, and now he is here." "I did," Maria nodded, "and I am very happy to see him, yes." Isadora got down from her grandmother's knee and crossed the kitchen to stand in front of her uncle. "Hola! My name is Isadora, and I am pleased to meet you." She held out her hand formally. Pepe chuckled as he offered his in return, and she shook it. "I see my niece has learned excellent manners." "She has, yes. That is Annalina's doing. She takes her sometimes into the city when she is telling the Payos fortunes. She speaks a little English, too." "Well, little one, I am not a Payo, so come here and give your Uncle Pepe a big hug." Isadora allowed herself to be gathered into Pepe's arms. When he kissed her, she could feel his enormous moustache tickle her cheek. "Look, I have brought a present all the way from America," he said as he reached for a box on the floor next to him and handed it to her. "A present? For me? Look, it's a box wrapped in pretty paper, Abuela. Thank you, Uncle Pepe." "No, Isadora," Pepe said, smiling. "You must take off the paper and find what is inside it. That is the present." "But the paper is beautiful and I will spoil it if I take it off." Isadora frowned.